50 on Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. And Chief, if you could lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Tonight's roll call: Casagrande.
Here.
DeMoss is excused. Calhoun.
Here.
Bosenga.
Here.
McClure.
Here.
Wells.
Here.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
You have a quorum.
Next on the agenda is citizen comments on any subject except those items scheduled for a public hearing. We have no public hearing items. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed in?
Yes, ma'am. The first person is Bruce Jaffa.
Hi, again. First of all, thank you for making your meetings concise, and it's only 9 o'clock, and time's gone by. This would be midnight, and so thank you very much for doing so much business so quickly. You have 4 items in front of you, all of them very important. The extension of camp space. You know, this is, wow. We have to admit we have a problem, and this is the only solution. But at least it'll be done in a way that'll be policed. It'll provide adequate facilities for people and monitored. And I encourage you to allow those uses. Laurel Canyon Diversion Tunnel. All of us who have been here during a flood and stood on that dike and felt that thing move and vibrate know the power of that creek. That the Corps of Engineers is now moving forward, and thank you Don Young and others for moving us on, is something that we've all thought about for a long time. The method that they'll use, I think will be still the process will come out. I mean, eventually they'll have a tail race or chute over Low Canyon Road, Low Creek Road, whatever, Low Point Road. That'll be in itself interesting. But eventually it'll allow the dewatering of the small tunnel. At which time you're going to hear, if Lord willing, I'm still here, you're going to hear me come back and talk about the option of hydropower. We've talked about some interesting ideas. Andy Baker, who's involved in the heat loop thing, is thinking all the time. He came to the council with a proposal to accept the water that's flowing underground and turn it into hydroelectric. The problem with that, of course, is running a pipeline down through town and wherever it's going to exit, tremendous disruption. But now we have the opportunity to look at this again. You know, God gave us gravity so that water flowing downhill can make electric power so we can watch TV.
The next signed in is Nate. Is Nate Smith still here?
He spoke earlier that he's...
Okay. I know it's confusing. And then last is Chip Arnold.
Mayor Terry and council people, council members and staff. My name is Chip Arnold. I'm from outside the city limits. I live in the Banana Belt at Lowell Point. And I want to speak in favor of Resolution 2022-47, which is the on-site volunteer RV space resolution at the Alaska Sea Life Center in one of our parking lots. I want to really thank the city administration for the out-of-the-box approach to this. We've tried to figure out how to utilize those RV spaces for many years for our summer RV volunteers. And those summer RV volunteers are very important to us. In the meantime, Seward has generously provided municipal camp spots for those RVs, and we sweat and cross our fingers and hope every year we can get those spots back, and I think this would be a good long-term solution to that. I know housing is on everyone's mind. I was listening on YouTube tonight and I heard that over and over again. This will give us the opportunity to provide 4 spots for seasonal RV volunteers, and that equals 80 to 160 hours of service to the Sea Life Center per week. because we require that they come in and work at least 20 hours a week. I know we're not the only organization struggling to find seasonal volunteer housing. That was very clear from some of the comments. And we appreciate the administration's flexible solution to this. We would be very grateful for the approval of Resolution 2022-47. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else signed in?
No, ma'am.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda and consent agenda, and I'm looking for a motion in a second.
I move for the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda. Wells?
Yes.
McClure?
Yes.
Casagrande?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda are approved, and approved on tonight's consent agenda, Resolution 2022-047, authorizing the city manager to waive provisions in the Seward City Code 7.15.010 and 15.10.226 for the Alaska Sea Life Center in order to accommodate the need for on-site volunteer camp spots. Resolution 2022-048, authorizing the city manager to sign all required documents related to the Lowell Creek Flood Diversion Project. Resolution 2022-049, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with SHI for the purchase of Sophos Central Intercept X, Sophos Central XDR and EDR, and Sophos MTR advanced subscriptions in the amount of $59,842.30 and appropriating funds.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is special orders, presentations, and report. We have a proclamation during this meeting for Public Safety Telecommunications Week. So I will, is there someone here to come right up?
Clear, yes.
Yes, thank you. It's nice to see you. Whereas the week of April 10th through 16th, 2022 is recognized nationally as Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Whereas Seward Police Department dispatchers work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to help keep the community safe and protected. And whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. Whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from the citizens who telephone with Seward Emergency Communications Center. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. Whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Seward Police Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and the treatment of patients. Now, therefore, I, Christy Terry, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby express my sincere appreciation in honor of the men and women of the Seward Police Department Dispatch Division, whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I myself have had to call 911 more than once, and I have just found that our dispatchers in Seward are extremely professional, very helpful, and I'll let you say a few words if you would like to say a few words.
I appreciate the acknowledgement. We try to stay pretty anonymous behind the phone for the most part, so it's nice to have this kind of thing every once in a while. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Resolution 2022-050. Madam Clerk, if you could read that title into the agenda, or into the minutes, sorry.
Resolution 2022-050 is authorizing the city manager to execute task order 2734.1 with R&M Consultants for the replat of the Fort Raymond property in the amount not to exceed $25,899 and appropriating funds.
And we need a motion and a second.
I move for the approval of Resolution 2022-050 22-050.
And I'll turn it over to, oh, sorry.
I'll
I was sorry. Do you have a good second since I'm chomping along? Okay, thank you. And I'll turn it over to administration. I do have some amendments to make to this, but I'll let you provide some background on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to turn it over to Assistant City Manager.
Oh, okay. So council, this resolution is brought forward for you. As we have discussed, we're moving forward with replatting the Fort Raymond property. We have to wait on the borough completing the replat for the 3.31 acres on the south end of the parcel to facilitate the sale to Chugachamute for their clinic, but it is our intention to move forward for this project. As we all know, there's a substantial level of interest in this property, and it's city administration's belief that the best and highest and best use of this property can be facilitated by subdividing it. Yeah.
Thank you. And before we start discussion, I'll just go ahead with the amendments that need to happen. So section 2 should read, funding in the amount of $25,899, and then a new sentence that says funding in the amount of $25,899 is hereby appropriated from the general fund unassigned fund balance account number 01000-0000-3400. I'll provide this to the clerk. To Community Development Contracted Services account number 010011227009 within the 2022 operating budget.
I'll second.
And I think what happened was just the non-final resolution made it into the packet. And I will provide that.
I have a copy of that,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, if we could call for the vote, please.
Okay, voting on that amendment to fix section 2, McClure,
Yes.
Casagrande,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That amendment is approved.
And then just one final, I'll make a motion that the passed and approved by the Seward City Council, Alaska, this 29th day of March 2022.
Yep, that's this.
And I don't think we need discussion on that, we'll just call for a vote.
Voting on the amendment to add the date. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. McClure,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Calhoun.
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Casagrande.
Yes.
And Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That amendment is approved.
And now the resolution as a whole is back on the dais, if there's any questions or discussion. Okay, Madam Clerk, I think we're ready for a vote.
Okay, voting on the approval of resolution 2022-050 as amended. McClure,
Yes.
Casagrande,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Now we're on to citizen comments, if there's any citizen that would like to make a comment. Hearing and seeing none. Next on the agenda is council administration. Comments in response to citizen comments. Administration, do you have any comments?
Thank you for this meeting.
I'll shake it up a little bit. Councilmember Calhoun, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Councilmember Wells?
No. Comment.
Councilmember Casagrande? Councilmember Osenga?
I have one comment.
Yes.
I can't let this anniversary of the earthquake go by without also mentioning
Yes.
a really cool thing that happened Saturday. The Mary Tugas and the Friends of the Library, well, that association, showed the earthquake movie at the community room, and it was very well attended. And she asked a couple of us survivors of the earthquake to come and be there for questions afterwards. And then we had the museum open, the RBHS did, for people. But so she asked me, because I was here, of course, and also Dorothy Urbach. And so Dorothy offered some of her, experiences. It was very, very cool to be there with her and hear, the stories I've heard before, but then be able to share some of mine. And for those that weren't here in 1964, on March 27th, it was a very big deal for everyone who survived that. And just continue to keep reminding people that that did happen and we can't forget.
Well, thank you for those comments. I just have two things. My son's first job was showing that earthquake movie, and I think there's lots of Seward kids that was their first job. So not only, it's pretty iconic in this community that we have that good documentation. And then finally, thank you to all the businesses stepping up to provide housing for their employees. I think, instead of, looking for others to fix their problem, there's lots of employers finding good housing for their workers so that they can continue to be in business. And with that, I will end the meeting at 9:06.